Today we are talking about Tom Holland's classic 80s vampire movie, Fright Night. And the whole thing is just played, just keep cutting to Roddy McDowall's face, like, just with his expressions, like, I've never seen this before. And then the moment where, Jerry imitates him. And he's like, welcome to, and it's like, for real. You're like, oh, wow, this is great.
Welcome to Director's Take, a Sony Pictures podcast. This is the podcast where we ask directors to talk about someone else's movie. I'm Becky Deanna.
And I'm John Lobinger. Deep down, filmmakers are movie lovers just like us. And they have to talk a lot about their own movies. So instead, let's get their take on what makes their favorite so great.
Oh my gosh, John. Who do we have on today?
So Becky, you're going to be very excited about this. You and I both love the fall.
Yes.
We love horror movies. But the ultimate overlap is how much we love autumnal-themed horror movies. So I think you're going to be pretty excited. We're having Eli Roth, the director of Thanksgiving.
Oh my gosh. So I absolutely love Thanksgiving. I called it a straight-up classic throwback slasher film. It was one of my favorite films of 2023, and I literally saw it 3 times in the theater, and I watched it at home on Thanksgiving this last year, and it's become my new tradition to watch on Thanksgiving every year. Eli Roth is also the director, writer, producer of Hostel and Cabin Fever, and of course, his role as Sergeant Donnie Donovitz in Tarantino's Inglourious Bastards.
Becky, do you think I should tell him that I was traumatized by Hostel for like 2 decades before I even saw the movie?
I think that's like the ultimate compliment, right?
But today, he's not here to talk about any of those movies. He's here to talk about something entirely different, of course.
Of course. Eli is here to discuss Fright Night, the 1985 horror comedy classic by Tom Holland. Not the Tom Holland you're thinking, but the iconic film director Tom Holland. And what I guess this makes it the 40th anniversary of this movie.
Oh, you're so cool, Brewster.
Oh, you're so cool, Brewster.
We're not going to do movie quotes every episode, are we, John?
Welcome to Fright Night. For real.
Damn straight.
I can't stand it.
Okay, let's move on. Fright Night features Charlie Brewster, the boy next door, who's trying to juggle his relationship with his girlfriend Amy, his algebra homework, and the homicidal vampire played by the dreamy Chris Sarandon, who just moved into the suburbs.
This is exactly my high school experience, like to a T.
Oh, okay. Before we get to Eli, we should also say you can get Fright Night now on digital or pick it up on disc.
I love bulky sweater season, pumpkin spice lattes. I'm excited for this discussion.
Welcome to the podcast, Eli.
Thank you, Becky.
Tell us what film we're talking about today and why you love it.
Today we are talking about Tom Holland's classic 80s vampire movie, Fright Night, one of my all-time favorite movies. I remember when I first saw this, I actually watched it with Jeff Rundell, my Thanksgiving co-writer, and it was such a simple and original idea. No one had done a modern vampire movie. There was sort of pre-Lost Boys. So the only vampire movies that we'd seen were like John Badham's Dracula, films like that. So the simple idea that you sort of set a vampire story in kind of a Spielberg world where, you're in the suburbs, you're an average kid going to high school, and a vampire moves next door. And dealing with the reality of that, where you see that he's murdering people and these bodies are showing up, and you're the only one who sees it, and everyone thinks you're crazy. And what's great is obviously the casting of Chris Sarandon, who's so cool and so good looking, and is so in control in the movie. You just feel like there's no way to beat this guy. But what's also great about him is he sort of has no issue with Charlie. He's like, how about this? Forget I ever met you. He doesn't want to kill Charlie. He's just like, leave me alone. He's basically like, quit being a pest. Like, if you, I don't want trouble. Just like, go back to living your life. I'll go back to living my undead life. And that's it. And so Charlie's the one who keeps, poking the bear, going, no, we got to get him. We got to kill him. And it very quickly escalates. And then, incorporating the horror host in such a great comedic way hadn't been done before. It was such an original idea where, this was a real thing. I grew up watching Elvira. So it's like, what if you had to deal what if you had to deal with a vampire and the only one who understood it because they'd seen all the movies and fought them was Elvira. So you went to Elvira for help. So to me, the idea of, we had like the Lenny Clark show, like everybody had their kind of local horror host on TV that was on late at night. So the idea that the only person who understood the vampires and how to kill one was the person who had seen all those movies, I thought was a great kind of meta twist. It's just so well written. And it had a great comedic tone to it. Mm-hmm. And then at the ending, the vampires were fantastic. Just the designs of the teeth and the smiles. I just love it. I love it. There was an artist called James Goes to Hell who did a mashup poster of Fright Night and Thanksgiving, which I thought was pretty cool. Like,
oh, that's so cool.
Fan art, where he did with the John Carver face and the smoke. But it was such an original idea. And Evil Ed, the kid in high school that you had to turn to for advice, who also knew about these movies. He was kind of like a punk rock kid. It's sort of like in the way that Return of the Living Dead then dealt with zombies. Like, we weren't seeing characters that reflected our high school experience dealing with monsters. I think Fright Night was really the first movie that did that. And then going to high school, like the whole thing was so true to the experience of the suburbs. And just like being in school, the way they dealt with high school, they just like the classes letting out, the kids that are in the hallway, and Evil Ed's kind of annoying. You got to run to his house and then walking home. I mean, and then it goes into those alleys with the steam, which are really, really fantastic set pieces. But the experience of like spying on your neighbors, the weird house in the neighborhood. We had a house that everybody called the Bird Lady. Nobody knew who lived there. I mean, it was so disturbing. But we all had, imagine like everybody has like Edward Scissorhands level manicured lawns. And then there's one house and it's just like, nobody has touched it in 50 years. And it's like dead trees and overgrown and newspapers piled up on the porch and the house is dilapidated. So of course we're always daring each other to go into the Bird Lady's house and what's there. Like, so we all had that house in the neighborhood that if you're looking, when you're 13, it's like, let's go out. Oh, let's go spy on the bird, let's go spy on this. And someone got a pair of binoculars. Let's go sneak around. Like that was just part of the 80s mischief. So seeing the person next door, kind of moving in and spying on them and then thinking that they're like seeing that stuff was very much, of our childhood in the 80s.
When he shows up and he's in the house drinking Bloody Marys with the mom, now I'm like, oh man, this is at a whole different level. Is Dandridge going to kill his mother, Charlie's mother? Is he going to steal her? Is he going to seduce her? It's like, he's relentless.
It's so scary. I remember that. Because he's just like, oh, problem solved. You have to invite him in. It's like, Charlie, come downstairs. There's somebody he's like busy nailing. I remember that so vividly, thinking like, oh my God, of course the mom invited him in. It's like single mom, handsome guy next door. Yeah. And just the double entendre, just everything. Chris Sarandon is so good in this movie.
Hello, Charlie.
Charlie, don't be rude. Shake hands.
What's he doing here?
I invited him over for a drink.
What?
I invited him over. Why?
What's the matter, Charlie? Afraid I'd never come over without being invited first?
I mean, he's such a good actor, but really, like, we'd see him in Lipstick. We'd seen him in all kinds of movies. But in this one, he's so creepy because he's so friendly and charming. And he just gives that little look like, I'll just come over anytime I want. Mm-hmm. Right, Charlie? Assuming that you say, no, it's good. Like, he's just like, yeah, well, now that I've been invited in, I can just show up anytime, right? Like, him and Charlie are just having and the mom is totally clueless, but he's polite enough to not, like, to not blow it. He still keeps the act of the polite neighbor in front of the mom. And there is something nice where he's just like, well, I don't have anything against this woman or this kid. I'm not going to kill her. Like, he could, even after Charlie kind of stabs him through the hand, you're thinking like, oh, now for sure he's just going to kill them both, but he doesn't. He's just, and then he calls him and he's just like, he's like, Jerry Dandridge is very reasonable as a vampire neighbor. He's like, she's like, you've caused me a lot of problems. Like, stop it. Just let me sleep and let me eat and I won't bother you. and
Yeah,
your
and you
mom will
believe
be
him.
safe. And you totally believe him because
Yeah.
he has no incentive to kill the neighbors because that would just, upset things even more for him. So, it's better to have a neighbor that could cover for him. And I love the way, when he sees the photo of Amy and then he seduces her with a vampire. And they do such a great job with the mirrors and the practical and the dancing and looking, to think that all of this was done before CGI when you could just paint someone out, when they really had to build mirrors and like the double rooms, the sets you had to construct for a vampire movie where he looks in the mirror and the door opens, then he walks out. You had to actually build a second set that would mirror it and do the action without the actor. And that's the fun of these movies, is watching them pull those scenes off and knowing that they really built that set for that one shot that way. It's really, really clever. It's so well done. And then he shows up and he looks cool and he's got his red scarf. But when he's there and he's just like, just the fingernails, the way sometimes they're regular and sometimes they're longer. And then that reveal of him by the fireplace and him standing up, and he always just looks so cool and so handsome in every single shot. You kind of want to be Jerry Dandridge. You're like, I'd be cool to be that guy.
I thought he was so dreamy. It's funny. I love all the epic vampire mythology rules. One of my friends just saw the film with his son, and his son was talking about, oh wow, I didn't know about that vampire rule about not letting people in. Like, I just assume people know that rule, but it was fun that they play all those, like, you can't, there's no reflection and stuff like that. And his son was like, oh, it's good to know. And I love how they lay all those out in this movie.
They do a great job of refreshing you on the rules, because it's kind of the last vampire movie before that was John Badham's Dracula. So, they're assuming that teenagers are going to see this, and they know that you get bitten, you turn into a vampire, you have fangs, and they drink your blood. But like all those little things of the holy water, the cross, you have to have, you have to have faith, or the cross won't work. And then it's just the way they lay the groundwork, where Roddy McDowall was like, I've dealt with vampires in all their forms, as flying creatures, as wolves, as, creatures of the undead. Like, you're like, oh, they can turn into wolves. Like, he says it so that later when Evil Ed appears as a wolf, you're like, oh yeah, no, this is, you totally buy it. It's like, now he's got to deal with a wolf. Like, how is he going to get out of this? And using the banister to impale him, and the way that Evil Ed comes back. They've done such a good job of establishing the rules of this world that we just assume, oh, there's other things they're not even getting to explain. They don't have Roddy McDowall go, oh, that must be a blah, blah, blah. They're like, oh, no, he just gets up. And
totally.
It's a great death. And it was really just nice to see that kind of Tom Savini, Rick Baker, like that sort of level of gore in a mainstream studio movie. That's what that movie represented to me, is that we had that kind of gore in Reanimator and in Fulci movies, but you hadn't gone to see a movie in a theater where when they killed the vampire, he didn't just turn to dust or burst into flames, but it was like a really awesome reverse photography, melting, gory, cool. It was just cool and fun. And the whole thing is just played, just keep cutting to Roddy McDowall's face, like, just with his expressions, like, I've never seen this before. And, and Charlie Brewster is just watching, like, it was great. So then even when, when Amy turns around and she's got that smile and the deaths and it was, an Evil Ed, it was like they really went for it. The vampire kills were really satisfying. It wasn't like they shriveled up into an old skeleton and turned to dust. Tom Holland really, really milked it.
Do you have like a favorite transformation or effect from the film?
Amy's smile. When Amy, because they do such a good job of playing Amanda Beeris's mousy and mouth. Sweet, and then she's like the sexy. It's like Sigourney Weaver in Ghostbusters. Like, I like whenever it's like an 80s trope that you went and got like your hair teased and the blowout and like the flowing gown, and you're just suddenly this translucent goddess.
Your
and
shirt goes from cotton to silk mid-shot.
And it's all kind of translucent. And you're like, wow, she's so like sexy and beautiful, where she was kind of like playing this sort of mousy high school student before. And then she turns around and she's got that incredible, that like piranha teeth. It's beautiful. Yeah. It's just iconic, because you hadn't seen vampires. You saw it in the poster and you're waiting for the fangs, but you hadn't seen a whole smile like that. And you saw it on Evil Ed and the prosthetics, and you sort of talk like that, but you don't care. It's great. It's really fun, because they really transformed the actors. That's what's cool about it too, is that there's no CGI of the mouths turning into that. Like they really had to go through a great prosthetics transformation. And then Amy's fighting him, and then he's, Roddy McDowall has to kill Jerry before, Amy kills, Charlie. So it's really nice. Then of course I remember the evil Ed with the eyes and the yellow eyes and laughing.
Yeah.
Becky and I talked a lot about the practical effects. Part of it is one of Becky's favorite movies, everybody's favorite movies you referenced, Ghostbusters. A lot of the people that came to this had come from Ghostbusters, and even some of the skeletons we see had come from it. So very much like the connection and the history of special effects in the early 80s.
Yeah, and I mean, Ghostbusters was like, it was a comedy with horror tropes in it. I mean, that's what was so great, was that it wasn't a horror comedy. It was truly a comedy, but there was scary, fun. As a kid, it was just like everything you wanted. It was like Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein, where you're like, oh wait, I can have comedy and monsters in the same movie. It was like mashing up your two favorite, it's like ice cream and pizza at the same time. It was like, what? I'm allowed to do that?
Describe it.
So, that was what, and I thought that Fright Night did it really well, where they basically took all the, like almost tropes of a teen high school movie of the guys, trying to, have sex with a girl on the opening night, and she's reluctant, and then she says, yeah, and then you just throw a vampire into it. And like, what if you were in just normal suburbs and a vampire moved next door? And completely nothing weird. He doesn't show up in a horse-drawn carriage. He doesn't, walk around in a spooky cape. He's not from Transylvania. He's just like disarmingly handsome, and everybody loves him, and he's super nice and polite, but he's also chilling and terrifying in certain ways if you know what he's really saying. And even the scene where Roddy McDowall gives him the holy water, you can tell Jerry's like, I'm going to go through with this, but like, if this is holy water, it's really going to kill me. Like, so it's really going to end me, I should say. He's already dead. So that's what's cool. And then he drinks it, and that's it.
You really walk the tightrope between horror and comedy and Thanksgiving. And so does Tom Holland's script in this movie. What do you think is the key to making horror and comedy work?
I think the comedy has to come from the horror. That, there's just like, I just have a sick sense of humor. So, we cut a body and we put it up on Rightmore with her lower limbs and write 50% off. That's like, it's f***ed up, but it's earned. It doesn't feel out of place. It feels like a sick joke the killer did, and no one's laughing at it. Everyone's just like, oh my God, like people are aghast. But also watching someone get cut in half with a dumpster is just funny. It's just a funny visual. It's like Three Stooges. So I have that sense. I mean, for me, the sense of humor is, it's got to come from a place of reality where the killer chops their head off and they're about to leave with the head, and then it's like, oh, the cat. I don't want this cat's who's gonna feed the cat? And the cat's like, meow. And then the killer feeds the cat. And from that moment on, you're on the side of the killer. You're like, I don't care about anybody.
Took care of the cat.
Killer took care of the cat. So it's really just like, and there were other shots we had where different people, we tried to work it in where different people had cats. Like, oh, that's got to be the killer because they like cats. So, but to me, that's the spirit of the movie, is like, well, the cat didn't do anything, and I always watch horror movies, and anytime I see an animal and their owner's killed, I can't enjoy the story until I answer I'm like, but who's going to feed the dog? Like, even though I know it's fake and we're never going to go back to that character, like, it bothered me, especially as a kid. I was like, but who's going to feed? Like, when I watched Alien, I didn't care about anyone in the Nostromo. I just cared about Jones the cat. And as soon as Sigourney Weaver took Cat, I was like, we're good. I don't care if Ripley gets killed. I just need to know that the cat's not going to get killed. But the cat was the only one I was rooting for in that movie.
When I think about this movie, just the horror humor, not like to the level of Scream where it's ironic, but that, when Peter Vincent is acting and he takes the steak and he has it backwards, I'm like, yes, that is hilarious.
No, those little things that it's so specific. You're like, of course it's done on purpose that he doesn't know how to use the steak correctly. But it's also just, he's like, Peter Vincent's not even my real name. Like, you never know his real name. And I always remember when he's like, right, Charlie? Like, I always thought it'd be so cool. Like, what if the horror host knew your name and gave you shout outs during the broadcast? Like, as a kid, we're like, that would be the coolest thing, to know the horror host to like reference you. But yeah, the humor is so great because Roddy McDowall is so funny and so good at being that character, especially at the scene where he's just been fired and he's outside the studio. Like, his delivery, his mannerisms, and then the moment where, Jerry imitates him. And he's like, welcome to, and it's like, for real. You're like, oh, wow, this is great. Roddy McDowall is really playing up that character so brilliantly. He's such a good actor. And, when you see all the past movies he's done, like he brings so much to the role. But it really has the whole thing is this terrific sense of humor to it and Charlie really is like, I'm going to get killed tonight. Like he's not, it's like not a joke when they go in the room and they see him with all the candles. But yeah, I think that, Fright Night, it's just right from that opening shot where he's going around the neighborhood and you're hearing the dialogue and you realize it's all from a fake movie. And the movies within the movies are spectacular. You can tell they had such a great time making those.
So full disclosure, this was my first time seeing Fright Night. So I wanted to tell you, you're the reason why I saw this movie. So I became obsessed with horror films when I was 9. I was like into, that's when I discovered the Halloween movies and Children of the Corn and Nightmare on Elm Street. And for some reason I missed this movie. And my whole life I sort of thought the key art with the poster with it looked like an apparition above the house.
Yeah.
So I didn't know until like a month ago when you picked this movie, I didn't even know it was about vampires. I always assumed it was like a haunting movie, which is
what? Really? Even with the fangs and the letters?
Well, I just think I never looked detailed at it to see that there was fangs. My friend said the same thing. He's like, what's happening? You didn't notice that there was fangs? I'm like, no, I just saw this big white ghost. It looked like a big ghost. So I always assumed it was and it was above a house. I feel like this would have been my comfort vampire movie if I had, back in the day, if I had actually gone and seen it. But it's funny because I wanted to ask you, what would you say to somebody like a young Becky, like when I back in the day when I was like trying to get into the edgier horror films, like what would you say to me or like somebody like that why they should see this movie? Because I'm not sure how I missed it.
It's not a scary movie, but there's great scares in it. But it's not going to petrify someone and traumatize them the way they would. So it's fun. It's like, it's got such a great sense of humor. There's such an efficiency in the storytelling, in the photography, in the production design. It's really, and it's really handled with a director who understands, the genre he's working in. It's like he's making a B movie, but it winds up being an A movie because it's so well crafted and it's not pretentious. It's fun. It has great humor. Every scene is entertaining of like this kid trying to bust the vampire and get people and they're just failing at every level. Like Chris Sarandon's, Jerry's just 10 moves ahead of him every single time. But the threat is real. Like when he comes to the house that first night and he throws him into the closet and smashes the house. And both you're like, oh no, he's going to kill him. He could kill him in 2 seconds if he wanted to. And he's going to kill him right now, the way he's choking him and throwing him out the window. It's just like, you're bothering me. And then stabs the hand. And then here's the mom. And, he leaves him alone and, to his own demise. But I think I would tell anyone that it's a lot of people don't want to watch older horror movies because they think that they're slow, which to me was crazy. I remember that feeling when I was like 70s horror movies took forever to get going. And except if it's Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but the 80s movies, like right away there's kill.
Yeah.
Scene every 10 minutes there's kill. This is one that really holds up where it's a really fun movie. It's beautifully shot. It's just, the performances are great. It's just a great story. It's got fantastic effects. It's a very modern feeling film.
I wish somebody had shoved it in front of me and said, no, you need to see this in between all your Children of the Corn watches and stuff. But even when I just saw it, when Jerry Dandridge says, welcome to Fright Night for real, I was like, damn straight. Like, this would have been my favorite film when I was a kid. So I was really bummed. So I really hope more people seek it out now.
I think that, there were 3 movies that I remember really dealing with teens in a very realistic way and kind of monsters hitting suburbia in the way that Spielberg dealt with aliens hitting suburbia. And that was, the first was Fright Night, then it was Return of the Living Dead, which dealt with punks in the graveyard and like all that. It was like incredible, sort of like the characters from Repo Man now in a zombie movie. And then The Lost Boys. Those directors were doing such fun. They were taking all the tropes of teen movies and the tropes of zombie movies and vampire movies and dealing with them in such a fun, realistic, and inventive way.
What are people going to be thinking about 10, 20 years from now about Fright Night? What's the one or two scenes where it's like, that's going to stick in your memory?
There's no way to know, but there's stuff that's just so well done, and you know they really did it. That's what's cool about it. You know someone really jumped through that glass in that makeup. You know, they know that a wolf really ran after him, trying to, you know, it's, and then they have obviously the makeup effects, but it's cool. It's just, there's so many great things about that movie.
The thing that I will think about forever is when Dandridge first bites Amy, and the 1, 2, 3 trickles of blood down her back.
Oh.
It's like perfectly framed.
It's beautifully
the special
done.
effects are just like they just nail it.
Nailed it. No, they got the right consistency, the right spacing, the like red blood over this. It's beautiful shot, and there's 3 of them. That's what's creepy. You're like, why is there a third one? You normally think like there'd be one for each fang, but there's 3 that go down. You're like, oh, this is gross. He's bit her multiple times. It's really like beautiful image. The pure, you know, virginal girl being, you know, violated by the beast that's like drinking her blood or life essence. There's a lot of things in that. It's really, really interesting.
Learning more about the movie and how it's made, special effects, practical effects at that time, they last, and I love seeing them in films now, and they age so well. But at the same time, you hear about the making of it, and it's so dangerous. Like the number of people that got chemical burns, that you know they were using the contact lenses.
Yeah.
And they're like, you could wear them for 10 minutes. They were made out of glass, and they were not meant for human beings. And people really they were really committed to making this movie and making it great. But you hear the making of it, and it just sounds dangerous.
Well, yeah, you look at Road Warrior in those movies, and they were just like lunatics driving 100 miles an hour, getting thrown off trucks. I mean, it's crazy what people did. And they were they're pioneering it, you know. Tom Savini was figuring this stuff out. You know, he was a combat veteran and just like understood makeup and baking foam latex and painting things on and off. And, you know, it's just, that's the people just sort of put themselves through it to figure it out. So yeah, it's the pioneers like Dick Smith and Savini and everyone that did this stuff. But you heard about contacts are very, very, very difficult. I've tried it once. I can't do it. I can get in one eye and then I'll never do it again. It's just too painful for me. And other people can do it, or they're like, they put them in and they can't see, and they're like, you got like 10 minutes, they have to be walked to set. So, you know, now when you can do stuff digitally, like digital eyes, like protecting people's eyes, for sure you want to do. But yeah, the digital stuff doesn't archive. It looks very cheap. It looks of the moment. Thanksgiving or any film that I do, when you have someone with buckets of blood on them, you just feel sticky. Instantly you go, ugh. You see someone, it's like seeing someone cold with breath. You're like, oh, it gives you that chill. When you watch The Thing and you watch that makeup, you're not looking if it's real or fake. That's why Ray Harryhausen, I watched his interviews, he always talked about, he never tried to make it realistic. It was fantasy. And as a kid, you loved Jason and the Argonauts and battling the skeletons. He's like, there's an obsession with trying to make this realistic. It's like, don't make it realistic. That's not fantasy. It's not supposed to be realistic. It's not supposed to be a realistic representation of a dragon. It's this Clash of the Titans, and it worked. It worked beautifully. It's handheld. It's that you knew they modeled every single frame out. That's what makes it cool. It's that, you know, there's something tactile there. So look, digital effects can help you. They can save you in a certain case because, you know, practical effects, it's practical. And, you know, a lot of the times, you know, practically none, it goes off perfect. But it's when it does go off perfect, it's amazing, but it's terrifying for the director.
When you think about this film, like what comes to mind that we haven't talked about? Like, do you want to talk about Brad Feidel's soundtrack or anything that you thought that we just didn't mention?
Brad Feidel's score is beautiful. I also love the production design. You know, the teenage bedrooms feel so real. They're so imaginative. The vampire's house is amazing. The basement, you know, everything. It's so rich and so textured and so well thought out and well done. And the production design of the show, Fright Night, and the movies within the movies, like Tom Holland doesn't miss an opportunity. Even the way the high school looks, the costumes, the makeup, the variety of characters. Like anytime you can dress as a character for Halloween and they're instantly recognizable, you know, the costume designer nailed it. And it doesn't have to be overdone. It's just very, very smart and specific. So I love it.
You were so generous with your time. We had so much fun celebrating this film, the 40th anniversary, and also just so you guys listeners know, Eli and I didn't plan to wear the same shirt. This is like one of my favorite shirts. I wear it all the time to work with like a blazer. So I feel like very honored that we randomly wore the same shirt.
Thank you guys so much. It was really a pleasure. It was fun to rewatch. I love this movie so much. I'm glad we did it. It was a great excuse to rewatch, and the 4K looks Chef's kiss. Beautiful transfer. Loved it.
Amazing.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
That wraps up our conversation with Eli Roth about Fright Night.
Yeah, he was so great. Not terrifying at all.
0% terrifying.
But again, if you now cannot wait to get Fright Night, you can get it on digital and disc.
Until next time.
Bye.
For real.